Yes. We like when she joins us.
I've got these 2 new cases mapped, Peter, but I don't know that we really need them to be very much. You're muted.
Hello.
I need to get that t-shirt.
Hi, Ursula. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Hi, Peter. Now maybe we can hear you.
Ah,
Ah.
aha. Okay, what do we got going here?
We have Ursula for some kind of a sculpture thing, and we have Katrina parking.
Sweetie, I love that you read my emails. Thank you.
Well, I'm getting into the habit of trying to download the documents when there are any. There weren't any today.
No, we didn't have much today.
So I got the 2 maps, although in the case of Katrina, all I had to do was find it in my files.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. Good to see you all, and it is 6:30. And we do have a quorum. So I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Woodstock Planning Board for November 18th, 2021. And as I said, we have a quorum. Melissa, do you have any updates to the agenda?
I do not.
Okay, we have the minutes from October 21. If everybody's okay with them, I'd like to accept them as is.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, under communications and announcements, we have an email from Casadoni regarding the D Swans site. We have an email from Ken Panza regarding the Aquifer Protection Meets and Bounds map that received we got the email November 5th. We have an email from Brownwell regarding 4345 Mill Hill Road, and from Zilling regarding 4345 Mill Hill Road, which is the Ugly Terrible Mud Club, and they're both in favor of it. Then we have an email from Romaine, which is a FOIL request regarding a cell antenna application. And we have 2 emails regarding that. And an email from RG Funk regarding the cell tower application. Then an email letter from C. Keith regarding 22 Rock City Road, which is the Colony. So, under new business, we have scheduled business. We have some sketch plan reviews. The first one is 62 Ricks Road, LLC, and the special use permit 21-0311A. This is a sketch plan review of a site plan review application for modifications to a site plan for installing an outdoor sculpture exhibition from May through October 2022 in the R3 zoning district located at 62 Ricks Road. And the rep is Ursula Morgan. If you're here, would you tell us what you propose?
Good evening, everybody. Hello. I'm Ursula Morgan. I'm the exhibitions director at the Woodstock Birdcliff Guild. And what we are proposing is, in partnership with the Glow Spa, we would like to do an outdoor art exhibition on their property. They have offered to their property, which has a perfect location for us, as it will tie in both our Tinker Street location with our artist in residency program up at Birdcliff. It is on the way, so that of course is of interest. And the exhibition concept itself came out of last year as the organization really began to look at different ways that we could still engage the public, support our artists, and bring in the public in ways that were safe and engaging. So the exhibition concept is shelter. And the artists that we have presented in the proposal are 6 that are confirmed. There are some others that we are considering, but we wanted to get approval before we went further. And the concept being shelter is that they will look at both domestically, what that means for humans, how we've reacted in this last year, as well as the connection of how animals shelter in their environment. Part of Globe Spa is that it actually is a designated wildlife habitat by the National Wildlife Federation. So our proposal is to have the exhibitions in the large field right across from where Globe Spa is, but that to minimize the impact on the environment, we're only going to be mowing little paths that will go to each of the sculptures so that the natural environment around it will still allow for the habitat to exist as it is and not impact it that way, which also will complement the sculptures that we're proposing to be in this environment. So exciting also for a not-for-profit to be partnering with a private business entity. Our bigger piece of this is we are looking to do a publication afterwards to document the exhibition, and we will be doing QR codes on mounted displays by each of the exhibitions, so there's engagement without it impacting the environment. And this would allow us a platform to bring in the curators, myself, to do tours, to talk about the artwork, as well as invite the artist to come and do programming in the site as well. I think I've covered all the basics. Are there questions for me?
Well, what an excellent project. Absolutely sounds excellent.
Thank you.
Certainly get input from the rest of the board. I guess the only quick question is, have you actually drawn this on a site plan?
We have their property map and we have walked the actual site itself. If we need to do a more formal site plan, we do have Mitch Owen who has offered to take it to the next level if we need to do that. But in speaking with those that be, it seemed that our preliminary sketch of where those sculptures would be on the property might suffice. You know, and some of it will be a little bit more in depth. Some of the artists are proposing to do site-specific installations. Yes, Judy.
You say this is a temporary thing. Are you hoping to be able to do this on an ongoing basis?
Perhaps we will see, you know, what our success is of the first year. Traditionally, Woodstock Birdcliff Guild has done some kind of outdoor exhibition up at Birdcliff every other year. This, of course, gives the artist much more of a platform. We really don't have the space up at Birdcliff to present the artists in the manner that we would really like to showcase them. So if this is a positive outcome, we might propose to do it, say, every other year. I don't know if we would have the capacity to do it every year. Ideally, yes, that would be great. But we also know that we only want it to be seasonal because going through the winter for the sculptural work to be outdoors is too much impact, both on the environment and on the artwork. So it would definitely, it's proposed to be temporary. If anything, it would be something, if we were to consider again, would be a different exhibition.
James has his hand up.
Can you tell me, is it going to be visible from the road?
I believe it's far enough back that you may see a slight bit of one of the sculptural pieces, but I don't think so. Their property is behind another property that's more of a sanctuary. So it's going to take the marketing for us to bring people to the location.
And my other question was, I haven't been to Glow Spot for a little while, but do you feel the parking is going to be sufficient for?
That was one of the initial considerations, is that they have a beautiful large parking lot. They even have an off area that could be for extended parking and handicap accessible parking facilities. And they have said that if people, you know, it will be free and open to the public. If there's some emergency, they're willing to let the public use our facilities. While we won't really be advertising it, it does allow for a little bit more comfort for the public.
Peter, I have the map if you want me to bring it up.
You sure you could do it? I'm just willing to poll the board. It's such a wonderful project.
They did, Peter, they did send the basically like the narrative of what they wanted to do, and they had the drawn picture. maybe if you guys want to see the drawn picture of where the statues are and see if the planning board's okay with that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you
This is
have
the
it?
right, this is the right property, yeah?
Correct. Mhm.
That is, and the area you see off of the parking lot, I don't know if you can see, yeah, that
That's
whole
the parking lot.
area to the right, that's the area that we're proposing to do the exhibition at. And
Well-
I am somewhat new to Woodstock Cliff Guild, but for me, one of the things that excites me is I'm a real advocate for augmented programming, and I think a project like this will allow us to expand programming in this kind of exhibition format. That would be exciting for us.
Let me poll the board here. It's a wonderful project. The way I feel, like we should be able to waive further review. I don't, it has good parking. Yeah, Stuart, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. Did I hear correctly that you're not intending to advertise the exhibitions?
Oh, no, we would be advertising the exhibitions 100%. We don't know if you would physically be able to see the sculptures from the road. You might get a tail bit of a top of a sculpture, but it's not, you will drive down, 28 and there's all these huge sculptures. It's a little bit further back of the property.
And would the public be required to use the spa facilities in order to see the sculptures, or could they just come just for the sculpture?
Yeah, it is free and open to the public. It is not, Glow Spa is donating their field to us for the season.
And do you know how many parking spaces they have at their premises?
I can get back to you. We definitely walked it, and there was, in addition to the main parking spots that they have, you see that the drive loop can add additional parking on both sides as well, which they were in agreement.
It's like
for.
over here and over there, so that's.
Those are the main parking spots, but the driveway itself is wide enough
Right.
that on that shoulder could be additional parking.
Okay, the reason I ask, obviously, is if the parking is not sufficient, then people would be parking and backing out onto the road, and we would need to look at that. So I'm just raising that as a question. Otherwise, that's it for me.
It's a good point, Stuart, but it's Rick's Road, which is a very, it's not that well traveled, but it sounds like there's enough parking for what they're expecting to have there.
There has been a neighbor near Glow Spa who's had some issues in the past. So my only concern is that road parking might cause trauma.
And I'm
So-
sorry, how many days does this take place over?
It's a few
It would-
months.
Yeah, it would be from June until the end of October.
Thanks, Ursula.
Are there any particular, like an opening or some other special event that would draw more people?
We are hoping that we would do an opening on the Sunday afternoon, the first weekend in June. And that would be probably the one time where we would have to be more conscious of the parking and see if there's temporarily an ability to park on the side road for that one event. But that's really the only time that I think we would have more than, say, 10, 20 people for a specific program at a time.
John, John,
John, you need to unmute yourself.
John, you're muted.
Sorry,
Okay,
a bit of confusion on my part. I just heard the Route 28 mentioned. And we're talking about Rick's Road, so I don't understand.
No, I was saying you won't see the sculptures from driving on 28.
You're nowhere near
Ooh.
28.
Yeah.
You're
Nowhere
north
near it.
north of 212.
You mean?
I mean,
212.
212, my apologies.
Oh, okay, that's, okay.
Apologies.
I was,
You
had
got me
the-
on my commuting brain, my apologies.
It's located
pick up,
on
John.
Ridge Road in Woodstock off of 212, guys.
okay,
Sorry,
okay.
Between
Peter?
212 and Glasgow, about halfway, it looks like.
Let me clarify.
Stuart has his hand up there.
I'm just wondering, I imagine this could turn into a very popular destination during the summer months when people are looking for some art to look at outside in the nice weather, and there's a lot of people in the town. But I'm wondering if we might want to consider giving an approval, let's say 1 year at a time, to see how it goes the first year, and then they could renew it.
This is
Concur.
only for, they haven't broached the future yet. This is only for this one, for literally May through October. So this season for the woods, they haven't committed to doing anything else. They'd have to come back to us.
But aren't they asking to change their site plan that's already on that we already have filed and approved for the property? I don't understand how that's going to work. If it's only
It kind of counts as like a temporary site plan modification, you know?
Yeah, this is a temporary outdoor art exhibition, so it would be literally just for this season. And
May
it's a
through
specific
October.
show that's curated by, has a specific curator and a theme. It's not something that at this point we've looked at as every year we will be doing it. If we are considering it, we would come back to you with a whole new set of awareness of this work, this didn't, this is what we need to
Right.
improve on, this is what our questions are.
So what is the end date that you're looking to do for this this temporary period of time?
It would, depending, probably be October 31st.
Of what year? Of 2022?
22. So it would go up, the artist would begin installing in May. We would open first weekend in June. And depending on when the artists need to deinstall, we may actually have to even shorten it to October 15th, depending on weather and the needs of the artist of deinstalling. So it's really in that spring,
Right.
summer, fall period.
Judy?
Well, I don't want to complicate things, but it seems to me that the correct applicant is the spa owner, since that's their property.
They gave me designation as the representative for the project since it's a Birdcliff project that they are hosting.
Well,
So
I
So yes,
kind
they are
of,
the property owners.
I kind of agree with Peter. I don't see that it needs further review. If you come back on a more permanent basis, then that's a different question. Then we'll have a history.
And I'm sure we'll have a lot more questions and answers at that if we were to consider it again.
Okay, any other board members have questions for this case? If not, I'd like to ask Stuart to make a resolution to waive further review and accept the site plan as presented.
Storm King on the Sawkill, huh?
Yay.
Better.
It's
don't
all
have to-
vocal. It's
no
our
thinking.
heroes.
No tolls.
True, no tolls. No traffic, well, Woodstock traffic, but other than that.
And no red turrets saying below. Anyway, so okay, I would move to that the planning board agree to waive further review on this matter and approve the application for a modification of the existing site plan as described in the application with the condition that the modification be approved only through October 31 of 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Well, good luck and what a nice project.
Thank
Good thing
you.
for the town.
My committee will be very excited to hear the news.
We just have some paperwork to do, but you're done meeting with the board, and then you and I will talk in the next few weeks, and we'll get the resolution together and have the planning board approve that at the next meeting, and we'll talk.
Okay, great. Thank you all very much for your time this evening.
Good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, next sketch plan review is 105-109 Mill Hill Road, LLC. Special use permit 21-0162E. This is a sketch plan review of a site plan review application to enhance parking lot to remedy a violation in the R 1.5 zoning district located at 105-109 Mill Hill Road in Woodstock. And the representative is Christopher Hallian. And this, of course, is a casino, if everybody wants to know. And this is a case where we do have a violation and an order to remedy by the ZEO. So basically what she's saying is that the parking, what happened was that they started to extend the parking without going before the board to amend their site plan. So, is Christopher here with us?
Yeah, yes, I am.
All right, why don't you tell us what your plans are?
Yes, hi there. So first, I apologize about not coming before the board to amend the site plan. Me and Nancy Adler, the owner of the premise, which we lease from, didn't know what we were doing, needed approval and a permit. So again, I apologize, but what we're just trying to do really is expand our current parking lot in the back, which is behind Cucina and behind the barn in the parking lot, about 15 feet. So what the idea was that if we expanded 15 feet, then we can add just more room for people to drive behind the barn. Because on busy weekends, and luckily we've been fortunate enough that, you know, with increased tourism, that the past year and a half, we've had more people coming, and parking gets a bit congested and people trying to get through the parking lot. So adding more space would add more room for people to drive through. And also it would decrease the lights going to any houses behind Cucina. And then also the expanded 15 feet would allow some more staff to park on premise, so they wouldn't have to find parking elsewhere in the town, or get, you know, rides from other people, and they could park on premise. So we were basically trying to expand it 15 feet. Right now we have a pile of stone that we'd like to put throughout the parking lot in the back, since it's not paved. And putting the stone in this area would help expand it a little bit.
Okay. So of course, what happened when the barn came before us, we said that the parking plot that you have was really not acceptable. So at this point, since the CEO is asked to improve, enhance the parking, we really need to ask for a proper site plan that's to scale. And when you come back with that, then we will assign site reps to go out and take a look at what you're doing. But the first thing we need is an actual site plan to look at. And of course, what the CEO wants is delineated parking, so that there's some order to it. So is that something you guys can do over the holidays and get back to us with a site plan?
Sure. I apologize, I'm a little bit new to this, but what would be the requirements of that proper site plan to scale?
Well, it's an engineer surveyed site. Everything has to be located and scale to proper scale, so that you can clearly show in scale how many parking spaces you have in the space between them to allow safe entrance and exit on the lot. So it's a review of the parking area.
Chris, it's going to contain the whole site plan. There isn't really a current one going on for Cucina in that space. So it's the whole site, and then the parking included.
You have to show what exists and also what you propose. So they both have to, so we can see it on the paper. It can be different sheets and so on, but it's a visual of what's there now and what you propose to add and where.
And you have to be aware of setbacks, closeness to the parking lot, and those sorts of things.
Peter, can we inform the gentleman that a surveyor would ordinarily be required to do this, or an engineer?
Yeah,
I don't know if he
definitely.
knows.
It's something that has to be located, you know, with a surveyor, so that all the buildings are located, everything is there is located, and then so that a proper layout of parking spaces can be delineated. So, and as I say, the existing site plan that they have is inadequate at this point. It's not the scale, and it's sort of hand drawn, and so it's not up to par with what we need for a major site there. John?
Peter, didn't we have an issue in the past regarding some owner-occupied properties that were behind that, that this may be
Exactly.
you know,
Nancy
somehow.
Shelfler.
Yeah, there you go.
She owns the
That's
property
one.
behind it. Yep.
And is there any issues with wetlands?
No, I'll bring the map up.
No, it's
I mean-
okay, Judy.
I mean, the main issue, John, is that the reason that, you know, we want a good site plan is that we can make sure that it's buffered, that the lights are shielded from the neighbors. If you can see up to the northeast, that's Nancy's right there. Yeah, that's her property. That's where she
Right.
lives. So,
Right, so this is a nice picture right here on the map where the stones are. If you can see where the grass ends and the parking lot meets in the back. Yep, right there. That's really the area that it is. So I mean, it's really not going to add any parking per se. It's just to expand it a little bit, because sometimes on busy weekends people park, you know, against the barn and in the back, and you know, it limits traffic through that area, and for staff walking through to the dumpster, which you see in the back there. So I mean, we're really not trying to add too much space in a way, and that green grass right there is what Nancy has. So it was really just to expand it a little bit, also because, you know, with snow plows, when in the winter the snow comes and we plow back there, it sort of limits how much extra space there is for people to turn around, and then they get stuck between, you know, driving and getting through the other side. They have to back up, and it creates more lights in a way. So I mean, we're really not trying to add anything extra. It's just to make it a little bit more space for people to drive, because on weekends there can be limited parking and stuff, and then they get stuck, you know, pulling through the other side. So I mean,
Christopher,
whatever you
Peter,
suggest.
like Peter said earlier, this isn't just about accounting for parking. I mean, if you're doing some sort of expansion that requires you to add parking, then yeah, we would need you to demonstrate exactly how much you're creating. And while that's part of it, it's also about making sure that we can see your plan as it's laid out to prevent any sort of incursion on neighbors' rights, on, you know, meets and bounds, the whole thing. It's just par for the course.
Is this the dumpster right here?
No,
No,
that's
the
a
house.
rental property. That's a house. So the dumpster is on the left. The two little,
Whose property is this?
that's also Nancy's.
Nancy
But-
Adler.
Adler.
Oh, it's not Nancy Adler's. Okay,
Yep.
okay,
All three buildings. Yep.
right, got it.
So
Now, is there any intention for commercial use of the barn that would affect this parking area?
The barn is already in commercial use. That's
Yes.
been approved years ago. And
Yes, but what about that impact on the parking load?
so that's been accounted for to my belief. I've been here about 5-6 years, and the barn's been open about 8 or 9. And it's for private rental space in terms of weddings, celebrations of that sort.
And those events need parking,
Right,
which
which
you
are,
must account for.
yeah, which the current
Okay.
parking load does. It's the expansion of 10 to 15 feet. 15 feet was really just to make more room for driving through the parking lot, in order to decrease, you know, light use from the cars.
okay, so here's the situation. The CEO has sent you to the planning board.
Yeah.
To solve this, and the solution is to come up with a proper site plan that we approve, because we can't approve what you have, and the CEO wants the site plan approved. So you have to actually create a site plan that shows all the parking, how many cars can park there. And that's what is being required.
Okay.
All right, so, yeah, Stuart?
Yeah, I just wanted to make an observation, and looking at the photos that Judy put up, there doesn't appear to be any screening, like tree screening or foliage between the area that he's talking about and the land above it, higher up on the picture. I'm not sure which direction that is, north, I guess. So if cars are turning around more easily and so on, there may be some light spillover from headlights during a busy summer night. And just pointing out that there doesn't appear right now to be screening to aid in reducing that. So I don't know if that's something that you might want to consider.
Well, it's quite thick foliage there.
Oh, it
It's
is?
quite dense.
Yeah, this here.
It's
That's
very
awesome.
dense. And in the summer, it's incredibly dense.
All right, well, thank you for clarifying. And then the house that's right there is Nancy Adler. She's the principal of the owner,
That's
owner
Yep.
LLC. Yeah, so she's supporting the application. I got you. All
Yes.
right, well, thank you.
Just-
I stand corrected on that.
Just to be clear about these photographs, these are always taken in the winter. So like here, for example, and here you've got trees, but all you're seeing is the branch shadow because there's no foliage on them.
I got it.
Or bushes, it's not easy to tell from this.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think the screening is the issue. I mean, the main issue is that the CEO wants a site plan
Gotcha.
approved by the planning board. And so to do that, we have to have a site plan to approve. So we'll leave you with that project. And I'll also tell you to get in contact with Melissa, because there might be a way we could help you. I don't want to speak out of turn here, but I know that the town paid to have that whole site surveyed in order to hook the sewer system into the town sewer system. And so engineering wise, the town paid for it. So I don't know, maybe you can get a hold of that somehow. We'll see if we can help you do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
get
well,
in
thank-
touch with me and we can put our heads together.
Okay? All
Great.
right. Sounds good. I'm glad your business.
This is,
Go ahead.
this is Brian. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't get unmuted, so I had to redial in. And forgive me on this. I just want to clarify. There's an existing site plan in place, and so they just need to modify off of that.
Well, the
Is that
existing
correct,
site
or am
plan, the existing site plan is hand drawn and it's not the scale. And it's not really a good depiction of what's there at all.
Yeah, Chris, if you wanted to come in, I could show you. It's huge. So I can't copy it, but I can show you what's in there, and it's not what's there now.
It needs a new site plan. That's a fact.
You need some professional help, Christopher.
Yep. All right.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
So there you go. And I'm glad your business is doing well. So that's the good news. Okay. Next, under discussions and review, we have Michael Arnstein, Woodstock, the Wetlands and Watercourse permit 21-044. And this is a review and discussion of a wetlands and watercourse permit application for development within the watercourse buffer area and in the HR zoning district located at 3 Collimore Lane in Woodstock. And Brad Will is the architect. And again, I want to point out to everybody, this is that area where they had the fire and burnt down the houses. And there was this studio cottage sitting on the bank of the creek that he is now building all new stuff. And it's a tight lot, very, very tight lot. So for Brad to get parking in and everything in, it's very, very tight. So Brad, if you're there, are you here, Brad? There you are. Okay, so we don't want to go through your whole presentation again. All this is the part of the Wetlands and Watercourse permit. And it's based on the fact, if I have my facts right, that replacing a cottage that was on the stream bank is going to require going slightly into the stream buffer. Could you tell us about how many square feet into this stream buffer you're going to be? You're muted, Brad. Brad, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, there
Hi.
you go.
Hi, Brad.
Hi. So we are not very far into the stream buffer. I don't know exactly how far it is, but it's what we're doing with the reconstruction of the cottage is we're pulling it back by about 15 feet from what was there that has been since raised. So the cottage itself is kind of straddles the base flood elevation, so that part of the cottage is in that base flood elevation and part of it is outside of it.
Okay, well, this is for the wetland, for the watercourse buffer, not the floodplain. But just so the board gets an idea, do you think it's 20 square feet or 40 square feet?
I'm sorry, you were talking square footage. I thought you were talking linear feet.
No, just square footage of the buffer that you approximately, just so we get an
Well, there
idea.
are several pieces then, if that's what we're talking about, because we have, you know, this is a site plan review that looks to phased work, and has, you know, a primary residence located on the 1 acre lot that is largely in that flood elevation area, and another accessory apartment on the other 1/4 acre lot that is more than 50% into that base flood elevation. None of these.
Excuse me, Brad, I'm not talking about base flood. I'm talking about the stream buffer. We're only mitigating, we're only dealing with the stream buffer.
Gotcha.
That's the old building, right?
Just for the
Right here.
wetlands and watercourse permit. So we just want to know how far you're going into the buffer.
Just get an idea, is it?
I'd say it's between 20 and 50 square feet.
Okay. All right. So what we do now is, in order to complete this application, we have to go through the findings. And I'll just quickly read it. Pursuant to the Town of Woodstock zoning law, Article 5, supplementary regulations, Section 226034, the Wetlands and Watercourse permit standards. The planning board finds the application identified above has met the requirements of the zoning law for development within wetlands and watercourses or their buffers. The planning board has reviewed the necessary site development plans, visual information, and has considered findings, criteria, and adverse impacts as described in zoning law, Section 26034K 4 and A-I. Accordingly, the planning board makes the following findings for this proposal. So we go down the list. The impact of the proposed regulated activity upon wetlands and watercourses and their watercourse buffer functions, including infilling, wetland or watercourse or other modifications. No infilling. Disturbance or destruction of flora and fauna, including disturbance of significant habitats or impacts on rare and endangered species. I would say no. Influx of sediments or other materials causing increased water turbidity or substrate aggregation. I'd say no again. Destabilization of a stream or channel or a stream bank. No. Reductions and or increases in wetland and watercourse water supply. No. Interference with the circulation of water within or through a wetland or watercourse. No, you're not in the water. Damaging thermal changes or nutrient levels changes in the water supply within or through a wetland or watercourse. No. Any other considerations that the planning board deems pertinent? Anybody on the board have other considerations to add?
Well, it's an
Quick question.
improvement over the old one.
Excuse me?
There's two people talking at once, Peter. You gotta
Yeah.
say who's talking first. Who wants to talk?
Judy, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying
ahead.
it's an improvement over the old building.
That's true. John? you got-
And my question is, everything in this facility is on town water and town sewer, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And Brian wanted to talk.
Thank you,
Okay, so,
Melissa.
Hang on, Brian. Hi, Brian.
Hi. So
So then-
I visited, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I visited that site and I have no objections and agree with what Peter said. I have one question. There are going to be 2 bridges across the street, correct?
That's correct.
I'm not quite sure how you're going to do that. I'm not sure if it's in our purview, but thinking differently given our experience. And with climate change, I'm just wondering if there is some type of, the plan what you presented makes sense to me, given that property, and I think it's actually an improvement. but I'm just wondering if there should be some type of small retainer. So if that bridge ends up in the creek and becomes debris, then that causes damage to our environment.
That's a very good, that's a very good point. But the solution to it is that the bridges have to be so well engineered that they cannot go down the creek and cause problems.
Who gets to review that and when?
Well, it would take an engineer to approve that the footings for the bridge are not going to wash out.
On what application? That's what I'm asking. Is it before us, or does it go to the building department? Does it come back to us? Who looks at it?
Well, it's on the site plan, but it's under the purview of the building inspector because it's a wetlands and watercourse inspector. So it's up to the wetlands and watercourse inspector to approve it or not. But it's on the site plan that we're reviewing right now. That's true. It's a good point. You don't want a bridge to go washing down the creek and cause a jam up and then cause flooding. So it's a good point. So let me just finish this mitigate the findings first, and then we'll deal with that. So the last thing is, does it comply with federal, state, county, and local land use regulations? Yes, it does. And the availability of practical alternatives for the proposed activity, as Brad said, he's pushed the building back. We can't really go anywhere else there. And the impact of the proposed regulated activity upon neighboring land uses where town records are available. No, that's not the case. So the overall impact of the proposed regulated activity upon public health and safety is good. And so given that we answered all of those, we have now completed our findings. And Brad, I guess it's just back to the question of the bridges, really, which is not before us right now. This is, we're just doing the wetlands and watercourse buffer approval right now. But I think he brought up a good point, and Brad, I think perhaps you should ask the building inspector about the bridges, because it's something that they do and not that we don't do.
Well, this the whole entire application, if it's approved, you know, every part of it will be you know, submitted as for building permit with
Exactly. That's what exactly. You have to get approved.
I will stamp it. The engineer that I've worked with for 20 years will stamp it. He's pretty rigorous and conservative in his designing, I'll tell you that. So I know that whatever he's designed here, it's going to stand.
All right. All right. Well, that really concludes the part that we were doing tonight, because what we were doing is the wetlands and watercourse findings. And that's just to do with the buffer, the little part of the buffer where the building's going. Okay. So I guess, Melissa, what we should have Stuart make a motion to adopt the findings for the wetlands and watercourse permit.
Well, I could do that. I would move that the planning board adopt the findings as recited by our chairman for this wetlands and watercourse permit application under WWP number 21-044.
Second.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, Brad.
So should we set a public hearing for this? What?
We certainly can.
Okay, I will
Well-
work on that.
So I have a question then. Why isn't the public hearing coming before we take a vote?
Good question.
Well, a good point, Stuart. What we as a board can do is accept the findings, but it would have to go before the public hearing when when we do the full public hearing. You're right.
I needed your findings to do the resolution. So we needed to discuss this as a board so I could come up with a resolution for you guys to have ready the night of the public hearing.
Well, so all we've done at this point is approve the findings as articulated, but
Right.
we have, I don't think I included in the motion approval of the permit.
Right.
Just the
No.
findings.
No.
All right, well,
We're
now
not there.
now that I confused the issue, I hope we cleared it up.
Do you need to make a motion to go to public hearing? Do you have to make that motion?
No, Melissa will set a public hearing
I'll schedule it.
on her schedule.
Okay.
All
Melissa
right,
Thank
does
you.
that magically. Just happens.
okay, Brad, any other questions, Brad?
No, not for me.
On this case,
Okay,
Brad, we'll talk and come up with a date for the public hearing for this one.
Sounds good. Thank you,
Thank
Melissa.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
good luck.
okay. Next under discussion and review is FAM Acres LLC. PB case 21-1226 and the Wetlands and Watercourse permit case 21-045. And this is just a review and discussion of the last meeting of a subdivision application of a 147-acre lot into 13 parcels of plus or minus 10-acre lots in the R3 zoning district, located at 1883 Glasgow Turnpike in Woodstock. And the reps are Melissa Meyer from Mettenbach and Eggers. So are they here? Is Melissa?
I'm not sure if they are here. I
Okay.
didn't add Alec, their attorney is here just to listen. But I think this was more just so everybody could get on the same page after we had Matt and everybody talking. And this was just kind of for you guys. Everything was rambling at you, and Peter, you had mentioned like, yeah, let's schedule just to discuss. We got the Ulster County Planning Board referral. Judy had done the maps, and you as a planning board really didn't have time to touch base about FAM Acres because we had Matt presenting. So that was kind of just my plan to execute what you had asked for.
I've got their drawings up if it's the right one. It's the one dated 8/25/21.
So it's 13 lots, not 14.
Okay, let me see if I can tell.
And I guess from what I walked away from with Matt presenting was that we have to declare ourselves a lead agency, and you guys did make a vote. I'm waiting for more revised plans, and then I will take care of that for our point. They did submit a revised EAF. I asked Matt to look at that. I have John Lyons involved with the HOA 280A, I think it is, and he's been talking to Alec, and he's going to get back to us with that. So that's what I have for you on FAM Acres and where I think we're at. Stuart,
Okay,
you're muted.
Yeah, I think the issue that the board, and Judy has done a lot of work on this, I think the issue the board is looking at is this is a very ecologically sensitive area. And it's a 13 house lot subdivision, which is it's the most major subdivision we've done in many, many years. And I think what's coming to light is two questions. How do you protect the wetlands and their buffers from being developed once the site plan is permitted? And I know the applicant said they were talking about putting posts on the outbounds of the buffer. The buffer, if you were to put a post at every angle in the buffer, you'd run out of wood. I mean, there's so many angles to those buffers. I don't know how you would delineate that in such a way to protect them. But I see Judy has her hand up. Judy, what is it?
Well, I just put the map up. This is the right one because it's 13.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
concern is that if you give somebody a lot, like this lot 4, for example, and you say, oh, goody, you've got this land and that land, but P.S., you can't go across the wetland. That's a real problem. And I need to do some reading and understand what a conservation subdivision is. I'm not talking about a conservation easement, but a conservation subdivision, because I know they've done all the engineering, but this is a crazy way to design something. I'm also very concerned about lawns and tree cutting.
Well, certainly a lot of sensitive areas there, and that the field on the upper northeast corner is a really nice field. But I think one of the questions, I don't know if we can do it to this applicant, but something we have to think about. When we do a subdivision, all we're approving is the lot lines and the roads. Where the houses and driveways go, we're not approving, because basically once the lot is sold, then the applicant can put their house where they want. And I'm wondering if we should think about setting where the houses go permanently in the site plan. Because, you know, someone buys that lot, they could put the house not where he shows it, but maybe they like it in a different spot. Maybe it's in the buffer. How do you know?
I don't know from this map where the buffer is. I mean, it says wetland,
Yeah,
but our
that is-
town buffers are 100 feet.
right.
So does this include the 100
No.
feet or not?
No, it's not clear. I do not see the buffer lines on there on this map, tell you the truth.
That is
It should say
correct.
100-foot buffer. Yeah, there it does. 100. I see it. It's a dotted line. It's a
Oh, right
little
here.
dotted line.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Lines are on there.
Right. So like where your hand is on lot 3, the buffer is probably 20 feet behind that house,
Yep, right there.
right there. So
So this person is buying a lot and paying taxes on whatever this is, 7 acres or something. And what they can actually use is about a third of that, maybe less. They can go for a walk in it, but they can't build. And they can't go build on the other side and have access to it.
correct. But how do we protect that now? As I said, when we approve a subdivision, we're just approving the lot lines, not the building locations or any of the stuff on the site.
What would be different if this were a conservation subdivision, not easement, subdivision? What would be different?
You know, Judy, I don't know. I don't know. John had his hand up, though, a question on this.
Yes, I mean, this subdivision concerns me a great deal. I'm very familiar with this property and especially lot 3. Look at the size of the wetland behind lot 3. And when you throw the buffer in there, I don't think this eliminates it total building, but the building would have to be very close to the road. And since, as you said earlier, what we do really doesn't set the area that they can build in. And too many a slip between cup and lip on this process. I'm very uncomfortable with this unless there's some more stringent rules and regs put in on where they can place the home.
I agree.
Peter?
Yeah, Stuart, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this would be a good case to bring in the planning board attorney so we can be told what our powers are in terms of how much restrictions we can put on, how much we can say you can't have lot 3 or you can't have lot 1 or whatever it might be. Because frankly, I don't really know what the answers to those questions are, and I would like to have some guidance.
We can absolutely do that. I mean, he's already discussing the 280A, and I will shoot him an email early next week beginning. We talked on the phone the other day and tell him that, you know, there are concerns in general, and then we'll just talk about collecting a little bit more escrow and have him available for you guys. I think that's wonderful. Okay.
This is Brian. Can you?
Hi, Brian.
Okay.
Yep.
I have serious concern about this plan. I think it has a fundamental negative impact on the property and therefore the Woodstock community as a whole. And I have a hard time imagining how one can move forward on this. And I'm hearing similar concerns from others on the planning board.
So why don't we, okay, see, this is why I wanted this conversation for you guys. So
Yeah.
how about I talk to John Lyons and we get him to come to a meeting and you guys can ask him all these questions. How's that sound?
Good idea.
Good idea. But let me just say to the board that, you know, I feel bad. This is like what the planning board ran into many years ago when an applicant gets through 3 or 4 site plan reviews and site visits and sort of in their mind a preliminary approval. And then we say, oops, but wait a minute, let's think this over. So I feel guilty in the sense that we let it get this far. You know, they've already created all these lots before we could have said, this is where you can go and you can't go. But something in the future, I really think we need to nip in the bud before we get so far along, because it's tough to tell an applicant we've changed our mind.
And Peter too, like,
Peter,
you know,
may,
Barry Medenbach was on the phone and, you know, Matt was asking for specific things and Barry kept stressing that this is a sketch plan review. They're doing sketch plan reviews. You know, they know they're not there. They know they're in the planning process. So that kind of backs up, you know, what you're saying. I think it's a good idea. I will definitely reach out to John and get him more on board and we'll figure out a time that he can come on a meeting.
Okay.
may I comment on this, please?
I do.
I do.
Peter,
What's that? I'm sorry, what?
Brian wanted to comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Peter, to your comment, I understand. I mean, you are always looking for ways to be collaborative and move things forward. But we didn't purchase this lot, and we didn't create the site plan. But we went out there and took a look at it. I saw fundamental flaws from the outset, and the applicant had a plan in place, and they want to move it forward in terms of their vision. That just because individuals want to do that doesn't mean that we could say yes. And I think we're being prudent and thoughtful about this during a pandemic, and we're doing the best we can. So.
Okay, good point. I also want to point out to everybody on the board, you know, we've seen it before. I don't want to put it up now, but Judy did an excellent map. She showed us at the other meeting, overlapping all the environmental features, one over the other, overlapped so many that you couldn't even see the land anymore. And that's a technology that Judy has created or is using that we didn't have before. We never could really have looked at a site with the environmental data that Judy has put together on a map. So it really does what she's done and capable of doing, and what the town now, planning board can now see in planning is really incredible. And I really thank Judy for that work. And we need to apply it to our, you know, to our reviews in the future.
I agree.
And does anybody else on the board have questions?
Yeah, I've got my hand up, Peter.
Yep, go ahead.
First of all, that's our natural resources inventory and our Hudsonia data. They create it, I apply it. I have given to Melissa PDFs, 2 of them, because it's too hard to see things if I put it all on one map. But anybody who wants a copy of that PDF can get it. And it's got a legend on it, so it will tell you what each color and pattern represents. So I would suggest that it might be worth people getting those 2 maps so that you can really study this in some detail. I would like John Lyons to be able to explain to us the concept of conservation subdivision, because that may be what we have to recommend.
Good idea.
I'll email your maps to the entire planning board tonight before I leave.
Thank you. I think John had a comment earlier.
I think Judy took care of most of it. Thank you, Stuart.
Okay.
But I am right in line with her. I think we really need to look at conservation subdivision and just, we can't allow this to be just any way they want to put a house or anywhere that the building inspector or, we have an overloaded building department. We really do. So we have to consider that also.
I want to point out that the work that's already done is basically surveying and map drawing. There's
Right.
nothing on the ground. Now, that may be money, but it's not in the larger scheme of things.
It's
It should
gas
not stop
money.
us.
It's gas money if you analogize it to a trip. Judy, I wanted to ask you, what's your concern about the lawn? You mentioned lawns. You talking about runoff or something? What,
No, I'm talking about
fertilizer?
This is a heavily forested area and it's core forest. And I keep thinking about that damn place on Xena Road where they clear cut all the trees. That destroys this as habitat.
Gotcha. So you're worried they're going to cut trees down to create an open lawn space?
That's my
Right.
concern. They're going to
Okay.
have to cut some trees to put a house in and to put septic in. But people who still think that lawns are the right thing to do, you could have 2 acres of lawn on each of these lots, and that would be a catastrophe.
Bingo.
Yeah, good point.
Peter, you remember this parcel had, when Mrs. Josephson owned it, 10 years in a row of logging permits. You're shaking your head, so you do recall this.
I do.
Melissa too.
Okay, but what did they log out? Does anybody know?
Well, the funny part is the skidders are still there to start clearing for this project. What they said they were logging was they were cleaning up the trees. They didn't
Yes.
make it sound like it was a commercial project, like they were making money from the logging. But I walked the property and I don't really see what they got out of it. But good point, John. I don't know. I don't know how much timber they took out. We could look at the logging permit and probably see.
All I can remember is that logger coming back to us year after year
Yeah.
for extensions of the
Yeah,
logging permit.
exactly.
It went on for 10 years.
I don't think they did much is the point. I never saw any big piles of trees at the skid zone. So
Agreed.
I don't think they did much.
It's not coming back now. We're done.
All right.
I do not have current orthographic photographs. What I have is from 2016. I haven't looked very much because I've been dealing with the other data, but we can look. If they were clearing things that were dead or they were thinning, they may have been improving the quality. The fact remains the NRI indicates that it, and this is something that the county planning board pointed out, it is rated as core forest, not the highest quality core forest. In fact, what they call the general category. And I don't know exactly what that means. It's kind of the lowest of the qualities that they pay attention to, but they're still paying attention to it. And it's part of a contiguous forest area.
Well, it's true. You wouldn't get good timber in an area with so much wetlands. You don't get good timber in those areas. Anybody else on the board have questions regarding?
I do, Peter.
Yeah.
Peter?
Okay.
Yeah, I would like Melissa, when she communicates with John Lyons, to ask him when he arranges to come talk with us, would he consider that, would that conversation take place in public as opposed to a private conversation? How is that going to work? If he comes to a meeting, how do we have a private, we can't have a private conversation with him, or can we? I want you to ask
Executive session.
I don't know if we have a right to do that. I want you to ask John if he meets us, it comes to a meeting to answer our questions, is that in public or is it something else?
Okay, Stuart.
See what he says.
Absolutely. Can you just formulate that in an email and shoot it to me and I'll just forward it to John, like your exact question?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. You have
May-
better, you have
May I
better
comment on
legal.
that, please?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I keep butting in. I can't see. So, you know, we have the right to get legal counsel, Stuart knows this, in confidence. So we just need to have the ability to do that.
Yep,
Right, so we have to ask him how we do that if we want to do
agreed.
that. Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Anybody,
Stuart.
anybody else on the board have questions regarding FAM? If not, we're going to move to unfinished business. And first on the list is D Swan Irons, SUP 21-0661. And this is for board members only. The application and site plan were not approved by the planning board at the last meeting. In order to modify the site plan with a condition that could result in approval, would 3 of the 4 no votes be willing to do a site visit with the applicant to see what condition could be added to the site plan that is mutually agreed on? For example, planting shrubs or something in front after the house is up. Also, please understand that no violation was cited by the ZEO and therefore no remedy or remediation can be imposed by the planning board. And there are no grounds on which to deny the applicant the right to build their house that complies with the scenic overlay codes. So I ask, are there any board members of the 4 that said no? Are there 3 that are willing to go to do a site visit and meet with the applicants and see if you can come up with an agreement?
Peter, before anyone answers that, I just want to ask, the statement that you just read, is that your statement or is that a proposal from the owners?
No, that's completely my thinking.
All right, thank
And the
you.
reason I asked for 3 is because the open meetings law says that more than a quorum can go to a site, but cannot discuss anything amongst themselves at the site. And in this case, we want the planning board members to discuss with the applicant what they could do to solve the issue. So that's why I say 3, so we don't have a quorum on the site. So my question stands, are there 3 members of the board that voted no, willing to go up to the site and meet with the applicant and find common ground to put a condition on the site plan that would allow us to move forward? I'll give you a minute.
Yes.
John says yes. That's only 1. That's only
Parker is
1 vote.
talking, but I think he's muted.
Brian, we can't hear
Brian
you.
says no.
What's that? I can't hear
Brian
him.
says no.
Okay. Well,
Where's the
Here's
2
the-
others?
We had Connor and James.
so here's the situation, folks. We're going to finish the unfinished.
Connor's
business.
trying to talk to us,
Oh, okay. Go
but his
ahead.
Connor, we
volume
can't
is
hear
so
you.
low. We can't hear you, Connor. Crank up
You're
your volume.
muted, Connor. You're muted.
No
No,
audio.
You're muted.
No
Connor, you're
audio.
muted.
All right. How about now?
Okay,
A little louder, please.
How about now?
Good.
Yeah.
A little
Oh.
lower, please.
So I said yes. I want to find a way to mitigate this. My question is, can we invite Michael Veach? Can we invite a representative, perhaps Cindy, to come with us and put eyes there to be considered with us?
The answer, Connor, is absolutely no. Michael Veach has absolutely no authority outside of the town for trees. Number 2, this is only for planning board members because they're the only ones that have a vote. And so it's only planning board members can go to the site, meet with the applicant and try to come to a common ground to put a condition on the site plan that we could vote to approve. Now, I understand there could be 1 or 2 folks members that vote against it in principle, that's fine. But we have to have enough to carry the motion forward.
Well, I just have to point out that we have invited them up to sites in the past where even some of our more ornery applicants have been willing to have them and have their consideration up. So if the applicant is unwilling to do that, I think they should, if that as it seems, then I'm considering rescinding my yes.
Okay,
Connor, I would completely support Peter's position. If you read the tree law, there is no jurisdiction of the tree committee in that area, zero.
And I'm not asking for them to have some sort of seal of approval or for them to have the authority to approve it or sign off on it, but rather for them to be able to give us a considered opinion, and whether or not it's what we come to agree upon. They are a body that I, respect and trust, and if that's not.
Connor, so do I, but I just want to explain, Connor, this is straight from the supervisor.
I understand.
He does not authorize the tree committee to go on these properties, period. Yeah, Stuart, yeah?
Yeah, Peter, with all due respect to, the supervisor and the chair of the planning board, I'm wondering if we're approaching this from a slightly wrong angle. And that is, I'm not a tree expert. I don't know if anybody on the board is a tree expert. And if the goal is to try and find some common ground, if the owner, let's say, were to say, all right, we're gonna have 2 planning board members come up, but we want our tree company to be there as well so they can provide technical input and maybe come up with a good idea that no one else is thinking about to fill in the scar over time or to give expert advice. Why would we be opposed to that? And from my perspective, I don't care whether it's X tree company, Y expert, Z forester, or even Mr. Veach if he has expertise. I welcome expertise, but I don't know about him in particular. I don't have any knowledge about his.
What about that
Certified
wonderful
arborist.
forester we had a couple weeks ago? That
Who are
woman,
you asking?
that woman who is part of the Sportsman's Club.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, James. She would be the best one.
I would love her to come.
Yeah, she would be the best one to go up there and give advice to this town. Absolutely.
But who would pay her and who's retaining her to go up there? And would the owners bring her in, or would,
Well, we'd have to ask the owners for, for retention, for.
The owner's hand is up.
The owners are here.
Mark is here and his hand is up. Hi, Mark. Unmute yourself.
who's speaking?
This is Mark, the Swan Aarons. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, board. Thank you for having us. We have not ever been asked if someone could come to our property, and we've never refused. We have zero to hide. We absolutely would welcome anything to move beyond this. So if this lady is an expert that the board members trust, we would welcome her. I can't tell you enough. We've been here 16 years. We thought we were following all the rules. We were told we were following all the rules, and this just hit us as a complete surprise. And we really would like to do anything we can to move beyond it, and anything reasonable that the board requests, we will do, because this is our family property. We aim to build our dream home here. So we're absolutely willing, and we've got nothing to hide. So please.
I just want to take a second to make a little quick clarifying statement, just so I understand where we're all at and where a lot of these ideas and directives are coming from. Because you were shaking your head earlier when I was asking about the tree committee. Was that you? And I'm not, let me just be clear before anyone interjects. I'm not hanging my hat on the tree committee. If we can have a neutral professional arborist come in and help advise, that's of course optimal. You know, we're trying, my effort here is to make a body of knowledge accessible to you that doesn't cost you anything. But you shaking your head earlier, that was to indicate that you, the owner, do not have a problem with us inviting the tree committee, or you do.
I don't know Connor, hello. I don't know the tree committee. I've listened to the discussions in the last few sessions, and all I have picked up from that's that there is a lot of contention around it. I don't know why, because I'm not party to the local politics. This is our family home. I don't want to get involved in anything that might be controversial. If there's an expert that everybody agrees on and is not at all controversial, that would have my strong preference.
Okay, but
So Connor, let me answer your question, because I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm not against the tree committee. The supervisor of the town has prohibited them from going onto these properties. That's not nothing to do with me at all. But I think that James's solution, and I was going to bring it up and James beat me to it, is to have that forester that we had out at the club come and she's the best there is.
well,
And we take her advice.
yeah, well, I mean, again, and I'm not at all opposed to that. I think that's, of course, as good, if not clearly a superior way to go. Again, neutral, expert party.
Okay, planning board, I have an idea. I will contact our dear forest girl, Lori Raskin, and shoot her an email and have her call me. And I'm going to tell her what's going on and see if she's interested. And then I will put her into contact with Mr. DeSwan Aaron's and they can discuss financial. And then Mark can get back to me and let me know what the result is. And then I will report back to you guys. And as for now, we are on hold. How's that sound?
I have a question. I think that's certainly in the right direction. My question is whether if there's going to be monies put aside to pay her, whether those should be put in escrow and dispersed by the town, or they go directly from the owner to the expert. Because the question is, whose expert is she? Is she neutral, working for the board, and to assist this matter, or is she, retained by the owners?
I was going off of retained by the owners if Mark was okay with that. That's why I wanted them to discuss that. And with him to have the right to tell me, no, I'm not okay with spending this money after he has a conversation with her. And then we can further broach possible escrow.
Neutrality of this person is important.
Well, I think the way to preserve neutrality is, since we all agree that she is qualified, is to find out how much she would charge. She may need to speak to the owner, or at least review the issues before she answers that question. And then we'd have to see if the owners are willing to put up the money to cover her expense. That's all. I don't know how much it would be or whether it's extensive or not. So.
Okay, but also please keep in mind that this is not remediation. This is, what we want to do is to get the planning board members that were against the site plan to find a solution that will go with the site plan. There is no violation, so we can't remediate anything. This is simply a question of what it would take to get a couple of board members on board to get this through.
Well, but Peter, you could ask them that, but it seems to me that they're going to be looking for, since the driving objection that they have is the hole that exists in the viewscape, they would be looking for some kind of solutions to that over time so that the hole gets reduced and it's not, and the viewscape is restored. I mean, is that James or Connor or whoever else voted against it? Is that what you might be looking to do, or if you want to weigh in?
I think that's the whole prerogative.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So
Can you hear me?
Who's talking?
Brian.
It's Brian.
Go ahead.
Stuart, would you like to finish your thought before I speak, please?
No, you can go ahead. I did.
Okay. A couple of questions. All due respect to the supervisor, is he on the planning board?
Can I make a comment about this?
Go ahead, Judy.
So I'm not done yet. So that's my first question. So why are we bound by what the town supervisor wants regarding the tree committee? Second thing, I concur with Connor. I mean, the tree committee, as far as I know, is volunteer and is looking out for the best interests over a long period of time for Woodstock. And it just makes sense that at least one person should be part of this.
But the point is
Yes,
that
I'm one of the people that voted no.
the
Can I
point is,
speak to this, please?
yeah, go ahead, Judy.
I believe that the supervisor's concern is that he does not want to set a precedent as to what the purview of the tree committee is, which is a reasonable question. If they have a brief that is in the law where their authority lies, it may blur the boundaries. I'm
I
not
think-
particularly opposed to their doing it, but I can see why he might have a problem with it.
Now,
Exactly. It's for the same reason that we can't call a violation. We cannot call a violation. That's only the CEO. So we can't remedy anything that is perceived to be a violation. And everybody's still talking there's a violation to fix. There is not a violation.
all right,
All
well,
we can do is ask to put a condition on the site plan that meets the acceptance of some more board members.
Right, but Peter, I don't think we need to use the V word anymore. But there is a condition existing at the premises that is of concern and that drove people to vote no. So I think that's the condition that's on the table, and we have to see with the best expertise we can find whether there's any reasonable way of curing that over time such that the no votes might consider approving it with those conditions. And my view is that we should use the best expert that we can find, who everyone seems to agree is Lori Raskin. So I would suggest that we go down that road with her and see if she's willing to help us and what it would cost, and then we can go to the next step.
Okay.
I'm just gonna, just because I didn't do so explicitly, I'm going to echo Brian's concern about this interjection. The precedent's been set. We've had the tree committee at other sites in the past, and again, nothing they advised us on was binding, but it informed our decision in a way that allowed us to eventually reach some sort of more informed and effective resolution. So again, I'm totally fine with a professional arborist. I just had to kind of express that innately. And just to add that this is something I plan on bringing up and extrapolating on at our December 16th meeting. I'm going to hopefully be bringing to the table a set of, some updated language for 260, 66 I believe it's 100, and also some expanded language to make, essentially to qualify what we mean by minimized tree cuttings, and see how that goes. But part of that will also include a discussion on whether the tree committee needs to be given purview in the scenic overlay and perhaps financially immunized a little bit.
Well, good point, Connor. Good point. And I agree with you on the December 16th. We really hope to iron a bunch of these things out. But that's a good point. So, Melissa, we're going to basically go with your plan, and we will continue this later.
Okay, I just want to make sure every board member is okay with me contacting Lori Raskin, and we'll go from there, and I'll let you all know. Okay.
That sounds great. And just to Brad and the applicants, I of course want to make myself available to you. You know, we got the holidays coming up though, so I just want to put out there I'm going to be gone. You should consider me gone essentially all of next week and the week after. I'll be back December 6th. So from then going forward, if that's amenable, I can try to. I'll work from there.
So, Mark, can you give us some time to work on this?
Well, we'll do whatever it takes. Thank you so much for setting this up.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, board. We just have a couple of things left. We have to approve or revise the 2022 meeting calendar and planning board decision on December 29th workshop meeting. So where do we stand on that? Actually, it's December 16th is our workshop meeting, right, Melissa?
Well, that's for this year. This is the 2020.
Oh, the 2012, right. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm not-
okay. It's been a long night.
I haven't got out of this year yet. Okay. Next year.
I know this year the meeting fell on the 30th and we ixed it, so I just figured I'd give you guys the opportunity. If we wanted to ix that meeting right now, we can. So it's all up to you.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
right.
Aye.
So we're going, now just approve the calendar without December 29th, please.
Okay, now we have, what's something else? Okay, we have to make a motion to approve credits to Judith Kerman for attending session 1 of Hudson River Estuary Program's Headwater Streams webinar series on November 17th for 1 3/4 hours.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second and third.
Okay, got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I love these Zoom meetings. I don't have to travel. I don't have to worry about whether there'll be a chair I can sit in. It's marvelous.
All right, board. I really appreciate everybody working very hard on this Aaron's case. I know it's difficult, and I think everybody's doing the best they can to sort this out, and we will sort it out, I'm sure. So I thank you all for working hard on it. Anybody else have anything to add before we adjourn?
I have a question for Melissa. Can you remind me again what the email is I'm supposed to send you? You remember?
Wording to John Lyons regarding public or private meeting.
Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't make a note. Thank you.
How'd I do? Good?
Good, good.
Be sure to ask him to be ready to talk about conservation subdivisions,
I wrote that
not
down.
easements, not easements.
Yep.
It's a different thing.
I got it, yeah.
Okay, and
Subdivision, okay.
the other question, I had one other question that I forgot to ask Melissa on the family acres matter. I think at the last meeting, we did resolve to be the lead agency, but then the question is, notices were going to go out to the involved agencies, and you were going to talk to Matt. Has that happened yet or not?
I broached on this a little bit when we were talking about Fam Acres. Matt had requested an updated EAF form. They had sent that, but he also requested a few of the issues that he had be implemented on the plans. So we really need another set of plans to put in that circulation packet. I did speak to Matt. He is willing to help me. He gave me an example of one that they did in the past, so I can use that as a reference. So I feel confident, but until I get the information from Medenbach and Eggers, and I know right now Barry's in Greece, I don't want to start declaring us a lead agency and do that until we have more information for that packet.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else have any questions before a motion to adjourn? If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening, folks. and thank you.
Aye.
Thank you all.
All right.
All right, Peter, next week.
Sorry
Wednesday?
for the discombobulation.
Wednesday,
Perfect.
Wednesday.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Let's see here.